of balance, fulfillment, and joy. I'm Kayla Sweet, and together we're going to have fun and create change from the inside out. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back, my friends. We are here for another episode of Internally Guided Life, and it's just me today. I am here to talk to you about some reflections that I've been having lately that I thought would be nourishing for you all to hear, and especially given the time of the year. So as I'm recording this, it is January 12th, and my last episode was about living boldly in 2025. I'm sure you've been engaging with different goal setting, intention setting, trying to figure out what you want 2025 to look like for you. And we know that the research on New Year's resolutions and some of those things that happen at the beginning of the year shows that a lot of people don't maintain the momentum towards those goals, and that majority of them have been long forgotten by the time the end of February comes along. So I'm hoping in part with this episode to provide some inspiration and some practical ideas to maintain some momentum. So if you had time to think deeply about what you wanted this year, maybe you set some goals or resolutions or intentions, maybe you just created a vision board, or you just allowed yourself to sit in meditation with the things that you are wanting to cultivate in your life this year. Whatever it is, we're 12 days in, and the honest truth is that many people are already losing momentum at this point towards these goals that they set. And I want to help you find the inner resources to get some momentum back and to keep moving towards those beautiful dreams, goals, ambitions, resolutions that you might have just set only a few short weeks ago. And I think this is something that everybody will benefit from hearing, because this is a time of growth and transformation and newness. We're still fresh into the year. And there are probably already some challenges emerging as you get back into your routines, kids go back to school, work starts to pick up the pace. I know this is a busy time of the year in a lot of different industries, and we have to find a way not to just fall back into all of the previous habits and routines that we had maintained before, at least if we're wanting to step, boldly into something new this year. If we're wanting to create some change, we've got to make sure we don't just slide back into what's comfortable and, built into our existing habits. We have to create new habits, and we have to really maintain this momentum towards our dreams and goals. So this is what I'm going to talk with you all about today. But we are not going to take the usual route. I want to talk about maintaining momentum from a totally different lens. I want to talk about how transformation and growth and our dreams often finds us in really uncommon, uncomfortable, and sometimes devastatingly heartbreaking places. There are unexpected detours on the way to our goals. These moments that just knock the wind out of us, literally and metaphorically, when we are just left standing there wondering what the next step is and trying to figure out how we got here. And to kind of frame up this lesson, this reflection, this journey that I'm going to take you on, I want to share a really personal story with you. And this is a story that I have actually only shared with my husband and a few close friends and family members. So this is also a personal act of vulnerability as I show up to the show today and show up to all of you. But this story is about an experience that I went through that really taught me the power of persistence and resilience and alignment and momentum towards my goals in ways that, I never would have expected. And by the end of this episode, my hope is that you're going to walk away feeling really connected to a sense of purpose and meaning for yourself personally, and hopefully feeling inspired to keep moving toward the things that light you up, that excite you, that energize you. And to do this grounded in the knowledge that even the hardest moments, even the barriers and the setbacks and the places where your momentum or your motivation lag, that's all part of it. It's part of this journey that we're on. And if we allow ourselves to see it as such, the setbacks can be powerful ignition points in these journeys. So this story that I'm going to share today, it's about me. It's a personal story. It's about a month that I spent wondering if I had cancer. This was when I was 30 years old. I had just finished my master's degree. So I had just graduated mid-September, got my master's degree in consciousness and transformative studies. And I worked so hard for that degree. It was a 3-year program, and COVID hit in the middle of it. There was so much chaos going on in the world, in my life. And the program was really meant not just to ground us in theory, but also, to really deeply live and practice the things we were learning. So it was an emotional and very self-reflective 3-year period. And I finished it. I got the degree, and I was supposed to feel on top of the world, right? I had worked so hard for that degree. I had stayed up late, so many sleepless nights, so many early mornings. Oh my gosh, I couldn't even begin to tell you how many words I wrote for the papers, how many research papers I read, how many hours I spent by the light of my laptop screen, engaging in projects and attending live classes and communicating with my fellow students that were on the journey with me. And I loved it, and it was amazing. And it was taxing. It was a big time tax. It was the thing that I prioritized over all else for 3 years. And I just finished it. And while I was navigating some grief, I felt, deeply sad, to be honest, when I first graduated, because I was going to miss it. I'd spent 3 years in this container of growth and transformation and nourishment with this amazing community, and I didn't know what that would look like moving forward outside of that space. But I was also, excited. I was excited to see what I could do with this credential, with the new letters that were going to be behind my name, and how I could bring some good into the world and step into transformational leadership and just be a force for more of the positivity that the world needs. So I was excited. I was scared and I was grieving, but I was also excited. I was stepping into a new chapter, a expansive chapter, a chapter that was unknown, but in the best ways, the ways that, make your heart skip a beat and excite you. And one morning I was taking a shower, and I found a lump in my breast. And I remember that moment so vividly, like it is ingrained in my heart and soul forever. It was just supposed to be any other morning, just getting around for the day. And yet there it was, unmistakable. And my heart sank. I didn't know what to think, what to do. I was frozen in time for a moment, heart racing, all of these different thoughts coming to mind. And, I was newly graduated. I was standing at this threshold of what I thought was going to be, perhaps the most exciting chapter of my life. And everything felt like it just stopped. It stopped for a moment, and I wondered, how long has this been here? How could I have not noticed it before? The timing of it, like, is this some kind of cruel joke of the universe? Like, here I am, finally, space is opening in my life for dreams to come true, for me to be able to spend time with the people I love that I've been neglecting during this program, and now this. And I'll be honest, my mind went to the worst case scenarios immediately. But I try to be practical and I try to be positive. And so, initially I was like, okay, after the first, 12 hours of shock and denial and questioning and fear and all of the emotions that come up when you find something like this, I decided to be practical, reasonable, scheduled an appointment I was able to get in within a couple of days. And I told myself, I wasn't going to stress about it until that appointment. I'm sure it's nothing. Things like this happen and they're usually benign, and, I was stressing myself out over nothing. So I went to that first appointment, and, I was hoping with all of my heart that they would have a quick and easy explanation and tell me not to worry and everything was going to be fine, no big deal, totally normal, and I could just go on with my life. But that was not how that appointment went. The appointment with my primary care doctor, which is where I went first, left me feeling very uneasy because it was very clear that they did not feel comfortable telling me anything one way or another. And I think that was the scariest part, was that there was just nothing, no information, nothing I could look up and do research on. They referred me to another doctor and they wanted me to get scans, and the next month was just a blur. There were doctor's appointments, there were scans, there were ultrasounds. I don't even know what all diagnostic things were done anymore, but it was, this blur of waiting rooms. And I remember one of the waiting rooms I literally sat in for 3 hours because they were behind schedule. And it felt like that was my life, was waiting for that entire month, waiting for answers. And I think what was the most frustrating is that I kept going to these other appointments on appointments, and no one could tell me anything. No one could give me an answer. And every time I went to another appointment, got another diagnostic test done, talked to another specialist, and they couldn't tell me what was going on with my body, the more scared I got. Because it felt to me like, okay, clearly it's not nothing, or someone would have been able to tell me that by now. That was, kind of my logic. And I didn't know if I was going to be facing a life-changing diagnosis. I didn't know if I was going to be spending my first month post-graduate school battling cancer. I didn't know what was going to happen. And it was in that time that I was invited to sit with some of life's hardest questions. I was at this pivotal moment where I had so much excitement and energy and motivation to do things in the world. And here I am facing my own mortality, asking myself, like, is this it? Is this going to be the end? Or is this going to be the beginning of a long fight, of having my physical health be compromised, having to change the way that I I operate in my day-to-day life, and how do I want to live my life? Have I lived my life fully? Am I doing things that matter? Have I spent my time wisely? I spent time thinking about all of that. And something interesting happened during that month where, for me, maybe for some people this wouldn't have been the route to take. This is by no means advice. I'm just sharing a story with you all. But for me, I had to come to terms with a worst case scenario after a couple of weeks of this, appointments and no answers. So I really found myself sitting with and journaling with and meditating on and praying on this thought of, okay, let's imagine this is cancer. Let's imagine it's incredibly aggressive. Let's imagine I try to fight it and I lose. Let's imagine I have to say goodbye. I felt like for me, I needed to make my peace with the worst possible outcome. Because if I could do that, then anything in between would be a breeze, right? And this wasn't me giving up. This was me trying to find like that fire within me to continue to do the things that mattered, regardless of what the doctors told me and when they told me, or how long I had to live in this uncertainty. And, I feel like I did. I feel like I did make peace with this idea that it could be the end for me. And honestly, there was a lot of useful reflection during that time, because I also realized that even if it wasn't, it could be at any time. I mean, our lives are so fragile, so vulnerable. We pretend that they're not, like we're always going to have tomorrow promised to us when we're not. We live with the fact that we are not infinite beings. Our human lives are not forever, regardless of, your beliefs on what happens once we transition out of our human lives. These human lives are short and precious and vulnerable and fragile. And somehow I was able to get to a place of peace with it. I was able to run the worst case scenario through in my mind and feel at peace with my life. I felt like I hadn't done everything I wanted to do, but I had loved really hard, and I had lived really well, and I had done a lot of important work on myself and in my relationships, and I decided I was going to be okay with it, regardless. I did get to a place of peace after the anxiety and the sleepless nights and the chaos and the what ifs, and that month changed me. And thankfully, the lump was benign. I didn't have cancer. I wasn't going to be battling a life-threatening illness, but I was changed. I walked away from that experience with a renewed sense of clarity, a reminder that life is just not guaranteed. And even though I wasn't dying, that brush with mortality was a real wake-up call for me. And it wasn't that I had big regrets, because I felt like, I had been making those strides to live the kind of life I wanted. But it did remind me that life is far too short not to chase every single thing that lit me up and that excited me and that made my heart sing. And it reminded me that no matter how big the barrier, no matter how hard the hardship, no matter what obstacle stands in front of us, it is an invitation. It is truly an invitation to step forward into a more aligned, authentic, bold version of ourselves. And I did. At that point, from there on, I chased the things that lit me up with such fire, with such drive. I can't even quite put to words the way that I felt so much more gratitude and appreciation for my life than I had felt, in a very long time. And this chance that I had to live fully and what I wanted that to look like and the impact and the meaning I wanted to create from my one human life. And so I went on this journey of, okay, what excites me? How do I get more of that? And I chased it and I cultivated it. And in the 3 years since then, I have put so much time and energy into bringing light and joy and purpose and meaning into my life that it's bursting at the seams with things that nourish me. And it was because I said yes to the invitation that a hardship and a month of uncertainty called me into. And I want to talk about that invitation today. I want to talk about how life invites us in the most unexpected and painful ways to grow, to transform, and to expand. As we're sitting, nearly mid-January in a new year, we might think momentum looks like hustle. We might think success is a straight path toward our goals. But that's not true. That's not reality. Real momentum, the kind that keeps us moving through ups and downs, the kind of momentum I had to find in my heart and soul to keep moving towards what mattered when I wasn't sure if I was going to be here anymore, or if I was going to have my life dramatically changed, or if I was never going to be able to have kids because I was going to be going through cancer treatments. When I was thinking of all of those questions, when I was living with that, that's the moment that real momentum is born. The kind that keeps you going. The kind that you need when you feel like you've been knocked off course. When you feel like the wind's been knocked out of you. When you feel like you've been spun around blindfolded and you have no idea where you're at or which way is up. That's the momentum we need. We need momentum during the hardship. And this doesn't come through breakthroughs or big wins often. It comes in those moments when you're forced to stop and reflect and reorient yourself to what actually matters in your life. And this is why I think self-care is so important, and I talk about this, and I know that my views on self-care are different than other people, and this is like a loaded word these days, and there's plenty of people on both sides of this self-care conversation. But for me, I think self-care is a necessary part of momentum. As you are trying to maintain the momentum to move towards the goals you've set for yourself, whether those were related to the new year or not, you have something you want, something you're chasing. And as you are doing that, to continue to be fueled to keep going, you have to practice self-care. And I'm not talking about the fluffy self-care that's about bubble baths and face masks and, spa days and trips to Hawaii or wherever the fancy glorified self-care looks like on social media. I'm talking about real self-care, true nourishment, the kind that strengthens you from the inside out, that keeps you grounded and steady when life feels like it's falling apart. The kind of self-care I had to tap into during that month of unknowns. I had to spend so much time with myself. I journaled, I meditated, I did yoga, I reflected, I created. I took care of myself so well that I got to the point that I was okay with the worst case scenario. Not resigned, not in any way giving up, but at peace with whatever this invitation, this challenge might look like. And I'm so grateful that I ended up not having to fight cancer. I know there are so many people out there that are not that lucky, and that when they finally do get the answer, it's the news they've been dreading. So I'm grateful that I was given this chance, this opportunity to move forward in my life and not have that particular barrier, that particular obstacle. But I think even then, I've seen this in friends and family members who have faced chronic illness or devastating diagnoses. Even then, there's an invitation to step into what does self-care look like in that moment? How do they maintain momentum and purpose and meaning in their lives in the face of the hardest things? So that's what I'm talking about with self-care. It's about knowing what fuels you, what keeps your spirit, your soul alive, about understanding, that your energy is finite. It's a precious resource. We only have so much of it if we don't refill. And if we want to keep moving towards our dreams, our goals, the big life that we were made for, the big meaning that we were intended to have in our lives, we have to take care of the vessel that is carrying us there, of our bodies, minds, and souls. And this is going to look different for everybody. For me, when I think about caring for myself, I think about time in nature. I think about journaling, self-reflecting, meditating. I think about deep conversations, moving my body, getting creative, and maybe most importantly these days, meaningful work. I am so passionate about having the things I do in this world feel meaningful, feel important, feel aligned. I'm not willing to spend my time doing things that are out of alignment with why I'm here. And for you, it could be totally different. The things that nourish you, only you can identify, only you know. But the point is that we have to know ourselves deeply enough to understand what replenishes our energy and what keeps us going. And if you're starting to feel tired or like you're losing momentum towards your goals already, it would be worthwhile to ask yourself the question of, am I doing what nourishes me? Am I doing what strengthens me? How could I get more of that into my life? Because if you aren't maintaining your momentum towards the things you want, you might not have the energy to do so. But thankfully, you can renew that. You can make choices to do things that light you up and fill you up. People get confused by me sometimes because I do a lot of things, and I coach people on burnout prevention and recovery. I'm a life coach, and yet I work in the learning and development space. I am a leader in that realm. I have my coaching clients. I do leadership training and consulting. I show up for you all for this podcast as often as I possibly can. I write, I show up on social media. I do a lot of things. And for some people that feels confusing because I'm telling everyone to find balance. But the point of that is that balance looks different for everybody. And the truth is that every single one of those things that I do, every role that I step into, it nourishes me. It excites me. It makes me proud. It makes me feel like I'm doing things that matter, that I'm working with people that are inspiring, and it fills me up. I get filled up so much that I have this energy that feels like it's on constant renew. It's constantly refreshing, and we all have to find those things for ourselves and commit to them because we deserve that momentum. We deserve to see movement towards the things we want out of our lives. And this is what the research tells us, okay? For thinking about momentum towards our goals, towards the life we want, whatever we're moving towards, meaning, purpose, fulfillment, Momentum is not about motivation. Motivation ebbs and flows. It naturally comes and goes. Momentum is about creating systems and habits that are going to keep you going even when you don't feel motivated. According to psychologist BJ Fogg, small, consistent actions are the things that create lasting change. And you can look up his work if you're curious about his kind of philosophy on all of that. But this is shown by all kinds of different research that I've delved into. And essentially, it's not about doing everything at once. It's not about feeling motivated every single day to do the thing you said you were going to do. It's just about showing up. Ultimately, that's part of what this comes down to, is showing up consistently, even when it's hard, even when life knocks you off your feet, even when the obstacles you're facing feel insurmountable. It's about showing up. It's about creating habits and systems and little things that you're doing for yourself and towards your goals to keep you going. It's about finding some persistence for when life throws us those curveballs. And when I say persistence, I'm not talking about like cruelly pushing yourself forward at all costs. No. It's about finding out why you're doing it, what matters to you, what's your deeper reason for continuing forward. It's about connecting with that and letting that move you forward even on the hard days. Connecting with your why. Why are you here? What are you here to do? What is the unique gift that only you can bring? What matters to you? Why are you going towards this goal? If you have a deep enough why that resonates with your soul, you will be able to connect with that and find systems and habits to support that, even when life throws you those curveballs. So, as we get a little closer to wrapping up, I think I've gotten my point across here. I really want to talk a little bit about how you can cultivate this persistence, cultivate this momentum, especially in the face of hardship, because it's frustrating when you set goals and resolutions and you have things you're working towards and things you want, things you know you want to do, changes you know you want to make, but it's hard. There's a process that you can follow to continue to cultivate these things, even when it's hard. And the first thing that you need to do is accept the invitation. Whatever barrier, whatever obstacle, whatever doubt, whatever challenge is facing you right now that feels like it's preventing you from going where you want to go, that feels like it's in the way, that feels like it's the barrier, you need to accept that as the invitation. When life knocks the wind out of you, you can't resist it. You can't pretend it didn't happen. You can't deny it. You have to lean in and truly, genuinely ask yourself, what is this moment here to teach me? When I had my month of uncertainty and I thought I might be dying, maybe I was being dramatic, but it really felt that way during that month of not knowing. I had to ask myself this question: what is this moment here to teach me? And the irony was not lost on me that I had just finished a degree in consciousness and transformative studies and, might be facing a hugely transformative life hurdle. I felt like, well, it's time to use all the tools and practices I've learned, I guess. I was very well equipped. It didn't feel fair, but I was able to find some humor in it, some irony. And I did ask myself, what is this moment here to teach me? maybe I'm meant to make peace with this fragile life and the fact that it will come to an end. And I feel like I did that. It's not to say I still don't have any fears of not being here or not accomplishing what I want to do while I'm here or not making the impact that I want to have, but ultimately I still feel that peace, that I'm living my life bold enough and meaningful enough that I'll be ready when my time comes. So that's the first step, to make sure you're cultivating some persistence and momentum. Accept the challenges as invitations. Ask yourself, what can you learn from them? Second, you have to prioritize your nourishment. You have to engage in self-care. You have to take care of yourself, not as an afterthought, not as the thing you do once you're so depleted that you can't do anything else, but as the foundation, as the regular fuel. Like when you refill your car, you don't wait until you're broke down on the side of the road, at least hopefully not often, before you refill. You refill regularly so that you can keep going. You can get to your destination. Our bodies are the same way. So prioritize that time. Make space for it. Don't let it become an afterthought. The last thing is to keep your eyes on what lights you up. You have to remind yourself again and again why you are on this journey. You have to connect with your why, with your purpose, and let that keep you moving forward. This is how I've built my entire career, my entire life's work. I have literally chased the things that lit me up and built more and built more and built more, to the point where I've found roles that I get to do those things most of the time. Maybe not all of the time. No job is glamorous 24/7. No work is without its challenges. But I get to do the things that light me up so frequently that it feels like all of the work that I do, all of the hats I wear, are more nourishing than not. And I can't even imagine living any other way. I can't imagine not feeling connected to the things that I'm good at, to my strengths, to my interests, to my curiosities. And I want to invite you to do the same. There's nothing so special about me that makes me different than you. You can also chase the things that light you up. Before we wrap up, I just want to say thank you for making it this far. We are almost done. I think this has been just a really powerful time to spend with you, and I appreciate this community so much for being open to my sharing, whether I'm solo or I have one of my amazing guests on the show. And I always like to make sure that before the end of the show, I give you some practical things that you can do that are very straightforward. And as I am someone that tends to get kind of lost in the clouds and talk kind of theoretically and big picture and, these deep spiritual big ideas on life and purpose and meaning. So I do always like to try to leave you with a few practical things. So I want to give you that before I say goodbye. I'm going to give you 3 things that you can do to help with cultivating some persistence and making sure that you don't lose your momentum. The first is to just create a daily check-in ritual. Ask yourself, how am I feeling? What do I need? Am I making progress? What's a small thing I can do today to move me towards what matters? That's it. Spend 5 minutes. Ask yourself those questions. Maybe write them down. Put them in your notes app on your phone. Maybe just think about them while you're brushing your teeth. Find a time that you can every day. Ask yourself those questions and make a small commitment. The second thing you can do, spend time with your why. If you don't know what your why is, why you wake up every day, why you show up at wherever you show up for work, whether it's in your home or out and about or it's raising your kids, connect with why you're here. Write it down. Put it somewhere that you can see it. Let it be a constant reminder. Spend some time with it. I know why I'm here. I know why I show up every day. I am here to inspire love and to inspire positive action in the world and to help people thrive in their lives, to help people feel seen and heard and connected with one another so that they can reach their potential. That is why I wake up in the morning. And not just for everyone else, but I want that for myself too. So I'm constantly on this journey along with anybody that I get to support. So you need to find what that thing is for you. What's your why? What matters? That needs to be your guiding light that keeps you going. And the third thing is to celebrate. And we talked about this on my last episode, and I will say it again and again and again. You have to celebrate your progress. No step is too small to celebrate. These don't have to be crazy celebrations. They can be little moments of joy, little moments of embracing the win. Momentum builds when we acknowledge the steps that we've taken. As we make small steps towards our big goals and we celebrate them along the way, we are constantly reassuring ourselves that we can do it, that we're making progress, and that's exciting. And that builds that momentum, that keeps us going forward. It reinforces the things that we're doing that are moving us there. So celebrate whenever you can. Celebrate right now. Think of something right now that you've done, that you've survived, that you've persisted through, that's moved you closer to where you want to go. You made it to the end of this episode. Celebrate that. You are committed to yourself. You are still listening. So with that, I will wrap up. I have loved this time, and I just want you to know that you were meant to live a bold life. You were meant to live a life that feels aligned, a life that brings you fulfillment, meaning, and purpose. And even when life feels hard, and even when the path isn't clear, you have to remember that you have everything you need within you to keep going forward. You do. You do. I promise you do. So keep going. Keep chasing the things that light you up. Keep saying yes to the invitations life gives you, no matter how unwanted they may be. And remember that you are already worthy. You are already worthy of the life you desire. And you already have a life filled with things to be grateful for, filled with blessings. If you're willing to look for them and see them and lean into them and appreciate what you have while you're on this journey towards the largeness that your life could be. In so many ways, we are already there as we are still becoming. That is the beauty of these human lives. It's both at the same time. So sit with that. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If this episode resonated with you or inspired you, I want to invite you to please share it with someone who might need to hear it. And as always, I would love to hear from you. Please reach out to me or leave a review or a comment. I hope that you can find one thing from this episode that inspired you, that stood out, that you can spend some time with to make it real in your life, to help you maintain your momentum. So until next time, take care of yourselves and chase your dreams because you deserve it. Bye.
Thank you for listening. If you want more resources on thriving in your life or want details on working with me, check out my website at internallyguidedleadership.com or follow me on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok at Internally Guided Coach. Be gentle with yourselves out there, and I'll talk to you next time.